of the Merry Kinda Contrary podcast, and I am your host, singer, songwriter, musician, actor, writer, producer, former politician, business owner, mother, and closet comedian, Mary Lemanski. I'm a Jill of all trades and a mistress to none, at least at the moment. To start off, I just want to do a short plug for my music video for the song that I talked about in my last podcast, which is Karma, Klansmen Are Ruining My America. And in that song, I had taken all of the voicemails I'd received after my tweets went viral after the Waukesha tragedy. And I took the hateful voicemails that I received and I cut them up, and I took some of the pops and clicks from the calls and that were in the voicemails, and I created a beat, and then I laid a bass line and a synth line, and then I took the rest of the actual messages and turned them into the vocals of the song. And so that was Karma, Klansmen Are Ruining My America. So you can actually hear what people said to me after the Waukesha tragedy and my tweets went viral. And then I made a video, and so you can see the video. I hope to have it up on my website at marylemanski.com soon. I'm working on I'm renovating the website, and I'm hoping to have it up this weekend, but I doubt that is going to happen because I have other things I need to work on. So, but hopefully within the next week or two, I will have a fully finished website up, and you can watch my video on there. In the meantime, you can see it on YouTube. It is also available if you go to Painted. So if you go to facebook.com and go to Painted Girl Records Facebook page, you will find the video for Karma. So in the video, I took all of the text messages and Facebook messages and what else? I had gotten mail, and so I took pictures of that too. And you can see all of this in the video. So you can see what people had written to me. But one thing that did happen that you can also see in the video is that there was definitely a concerted effort by a group to target me. I caught people not only once, but twice, forwarding my messages. So they had sent me some kind of message, and I had responded back because I was responding back to some, not all. I mean, I was obviously not the death threats, but I was responding back to some people just to set them straight on, lies that are circulating about me on the internet. And so I did respond back to some people, and when I responded back, a couple of the people were forwarding my messages on to others, and you can see what they were saying. It's quite interesting, but you'll have to watch the video. But then also in one of the messages where they were forwarding on, they make reference to I'm holding on to some messages and waiting to see how she responds is basically what they said. So apparently I don't know if they had canned messages, that they had prepared messages ready to send me in case I responded so-and-so or what. So I don't know. It's very odd and weird. But you can see all of that in the music video. So I encourage you to go to my YouTube page and to the Painted Girl Records Facebook page and watch the video. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it will also be on my website at marylemanski.com. In the meantime, I guess that's my plug for that. I would like to talk about a few things today. And in general, we'll just say I'm talking about the erosion of our civil liberties. And also I wanted to talk a bit about, add on to what I had talked about in my first episode about white supremacy. So I guess before I talk about all that, though, I kind of want to set the tone and the stage, because this is all very, very convoluted and complex. Well, you know what? First, I need to explain something. I started out at age 18 as a Democrat, and at age 20, I changed to a libertarian. And I was a libertarian pretty much for 20 years. And then, well, I don't really want to get into why I left the party, but I left the party, and then Trump got elected to office somehow. And so then I thought that there might be strength in numbers, because I didn't like what I was seeing. It was very authoritarian, autocratic BS. So, and making fun of, I thought the deal breaker was making fun of disabled people, but, who knows what the bottom is. Anyway, I decided, there's strength in numbers, so I decided I needed to do something to help the Democrats. And it just so happened that the DuPage Democrats were looking for a social media manager. Or no, they were not at that time. They were looking for someone to help with their website. And I knew some WordPress, so I offered to do it. And they had me write their blog. So I was doing their blog for a while, and I did such a good job with that they, to make a long story short, they asked me to help with their social media. So at the time, somebody, I don't even remember who I was talking to, but they had mentioned when I came on board that, because I had brought up Hillary's emails, and I know it was a male, he had said at the time, the RNC was hacked at the same time that the DNC was hacked. We know they found Hillary's emails, but we don't know what they found out about the RNC. And so just recently, I wanted to look and see if I could find out more information about this hack. And so I looked the other day, and there the first mention I find of it is in the New York Times on December 9th, 2016. And so let me just read what they wrote. American intelligence agencies have concluded with high confidence that Russia acted covertly in the latter stages of the presidential campaign to harm Hillary Clinton's chances and promote Donald J. Trump, according to senior administration officials. They base that conclusion in part on another finding, which they say was also reached with high confidence, that the Russians hacked the Republican National Committee's computer systems in addition to their attacks on Democratic organizations, but did not release whatever information they gleaned from the Republican networks. So My thought, and a lot of people's thoughts, is that the Republican Party is being blackmailed by Russia with this information of whatever it is, because they have been acting highly suspicious since about 2016. So I just wanted to bring that up because nobody seems to talk about it. And we really talked about Hillary's emails for a long time. So I'd like to know, what did Russia find out about the Republican National Committee? I don't know. Will we ever know? Will we ever know before our democracy falls? All right. Moving on, I would like to, I guess, I want to talk a little bit more in regards to white supremacy from last week. There's a few things that I didn't get to because I was talking for 2 hours and I didn't really, I really didn't mean to go on for that long, but I had a lot to talk about, and there was a lot on my mind, and it just all kind of was woven together. So this is all kind of woven together too. So so people are asking, what is this big focus on white supremacy? That's not an issue, especially white people. What is this? There's no white supremacy going on. I think the big thing that we all need to realize, and that bothers some white people in our society, is that around 2045, Americans will become what is called a majority minority. So that means that although the non-Hispanic white population will still be the largest single group in America, the combined populations of all non-white racial and ethnic groups will make up more than half of the U.S. population. And so this troubles a lot of white people for some reason. I think maybe they think that people of non-white racial makeup will treat them the way they've treated black people, especially in this country. I don't know. I don't know why they're afraid. I guess they're afraid of giving up power. That's probably the biggest thing. But already currently, there are more non-whites in the workforce than white people. So I'm not sure that, all hell hasn't broken out right now, so I just don't understand their fear, I guess. And so I kind of, in my past, I've had friends that, as I talked about in my last episode, I had a friend that was a former white supremacist, and he told me about RaHoWa, RaHoWa. It stands for Racial Holy War, the RaHoWa. And this term was first used by Ben Klassen, who was the founder of what became known as the Church of the Creator. And it had a publication called Nature's Eternal Religion. Individual church members were called creators, and the religion they practiced was called creativity. And this religion was based in North Carolina. They had a school for boys. They had a 2-week summer program that taught hiking, camping, training, and handling of firearms, archery, tennis, whitewater rafting, and other healthy outdoor activities, as well as instruction on, quote, the goals and doctrines of creativity and how they could best serve their own race in various capacities of leadership, end quote. Ben Klassen wrote a book called RaHoWa, This Planet is Ours. And in it, he claims that Jews created Christianity in order to make white people weaker. He popularized the term racial holy war within the white nationalist movement. One thing about him, he was a member of the John Birch Society at one point, but he became disillusioned with the society, and he viewed them too tolerant toward Jews. So this is not a good man. So he created this religion, and so I think that a lot of these white supremacists think this is their last hurrah. This is their racial holy war that they've been waiting for. I think it's been fed into with the evangelist movement, where it leans toward white supremacy. I think when Trump was elected president, I think this white nationalist movement in America saw him as their messiah for their racial holy war. I mean, it just fed right into their paradigm that they were living in. And so they thought, this is the time, he's come to bring about, whatever heaven on earth they thought they were going to bring about. So it was probably very highly disappointing when he lost, because he wasn't supposed to lose. I mean, this is their racial holy war. And if you think I'm crazy saying that, oh, she's crazy, nobody thinks that in the Republican Party. But, back in, I guess it was, 2018, May of 2018, when Donald Trump made a decision to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Fox News host Jeanine Pirro said that it was filled with biblical significance. She said, Donald Trump recognized history. He, like King Cyrus before him, fulfilled the biblical prophecy of the gods worshipped by Jews, Christians, and yes, Muslims, that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish state and that the Jewish people deserve a righteous, free, and sovereign Israel. She called the move a truly historic moment in Israel's history. So she basically said he fulfilled she did say he fulfilled the biblical prophecy of the gods worshipped by Jews, Christians, and yes, Muslims. I think they're all the same, but God. But at any rate, she did say he fulfilled a prophecy. So they were very, very disappointed when he lost, because he was supposed to reign forever and bring heaven on earth, or whatever he was supposed to do. It's more like hell on earth, but okay. And if you think I am fooling, then go to civilrights.org and look up the Trump civil rights and human rights rollbacks. It's very, very interesting. I hope you're not crying by the end of it, because you probably will be. Anyway, that's what I wanted to touch on about RaHoWa and all of that. So we have the white supremacists, and we have the Russian blackmail going on. You can make of that what you want, but that is what is going on. At any rate, I think that is pretty much all I want to say on RaHoWa. I do want to talk a little bit about what is going on in Florida and Disney and DeSantis. The Disney versus DeSantis, or DeSatan, as some choose to call him. So the whole freedom of speech thing. And I also want to talk about Elon Musk and Twitter. And I think there is a big, huge confusion going on right now about what constitutes freedom of speech. It seems that there's been some clouding of the waters. The U.S. Constitution protects freedom of speech. However, in your home and in your business, you are allowed to dictate what can and cannot be said in your home and in your business. And Twitter is a business. It doesn't have walls around it, but it very much is a business. And so maybe it's because I have an MBA in e-business that I just imagine websites as people's little storefronts. But they're living in space somewhere. And because of that, I draw like very similar lines between brick and mortar businesses and what's online. And there's very, very many similar parallels, including business owners' rights, at least in the United States. I just want to read you a little conversation I had online, and it really kind of illustrates a lot of my points I want to bring up. I might add a few on at the end, but I mean, I kind of just laid it out there in this conversation about my whole thoughts on this. So there was a group where my kids go to school. There's a parents group on Facebook. And somebody had posted an article about what was going on in Florida, and also, the schools just limiting free speech in the classroom. So I responded back on the article, "My God, I hope Florida votes DeSantis out in November. I find it very alarming that they're violating freedom of speech in the classroom." And so somebody, we'll call her Sherry, says, "How are they violating freedom of speech in the classroom?" So I said, "They are legislating what can and cannot be said in a classroom." And so Sherry says, "By rejecting math books." And And so I posted an article from the Miami Herald titled DeSantis's, quote, free state of Florida faces new restrictions on free amendment rights. And this article goes into great detail about other things that DeSantis has passed too, I believe. So, limiting free speech in the state of Florida. And I can talk about some of those later. I pulled some of them up. I'll just see how much time I have. I don't want to go too long. So Sherry responds back to this Miami Herald piece. This is a seriously biased piece. These people always, if it contradicts what they're saying, it's biased. I mean, it could be a fact, like repeated on a million different networks, but it's biased. Anyway, she goes, this is a seriously biased piece. I have no problem with legislation that prohibits schools from dividing children into oppressors and victims based on their race or doing anything else based on the race of students. An excellent book is Woke Racism by John McWhorter. So I responded back. I have watched the erosion of our civil rights for the past 20 years. It started with dictating whether or not a private business could allow a legal thing like smoking in their place of business. When the smoking bans went into effect, I predicted that our homes and cars would be next. They were. You cannot smoke in an apartment with shared ventilation systems. Why not provide consumers with a choice of smoking in non-smoking buildings or venues? It not only goes against the civil rights of private business owners, it also hurts the economy by providing consumers with less choice. After 9/11 happened, our civil rights were further eroded. I don't think anyone could argue against me on that fact. Then come the anti-abortion laws of the GOP. The right to privacy is not in the Bill of Rights. It is an implied right. It is implied with no unlawful search and seizure, but it is not explicitly written out. Roe versus Wade is the main court case arguing right to privacy. When the GOP overturn Roe versus Wade, it will be a gigantic blow to right to privacy. Guess what? They can take your guns then. Now they are trying to dictate free speech in the classroom by saying what teachers can and cannot say about certain topics. They don't want history taught because it might make white people feel bad. Boo-hoo. Imagine how bad 400 years of slavery feels like. Learn some empathy. They censor free speech in the name of, quote, parental rights. But there is no such thing as parental rights in the Constitution. There is freedom of speech in public, and public schools are public. And so then she goes on, or somebody else asked me, are you a libertarian? So I say, funny you should ask. From age 18 to 20, I was a Democrat. Then I became a libertarian for 20 years, which I talked about earlier. I even did social media for the National Party, but I had some issues with the direction of the party, and I did a really huge project on my own to help them out for free. And they took the information I gave them and didn't even acknowledge the 3 months of work I did, so I left. When Trump took office, I became a Democrat and was the social media manager for 4 years for the DePage Democrats until I got tailed by Proud Boys for a week after speaking up at the Downers Grove 99 board meeting against them and censorship. And a week later, they made some tweets I posted that were not in good taste go viral at 2 a.m. And Fox News thought it was so profoundly interesting that they put it on national news at 4 a.m. I resigned from my position with the Democrats, and I've been getting death threats, and all kinds of stuff has been happening ever since because of white supremacists and fringe right-wing incel elements of Anonymous. I'm writing a book and exposing all of this takeover by the far right and white supremacists at the local level. And this other person said, ouch and bravo, sending you a PM. And I said, looking forward to it. And then Sherry comes back and says, you must have been furious when the government closed down private businesses and forced people to get vaccinated then, or when they allowed abortions but not colonoscopies or mammograms during the lockdown. So I said back, 1, public health is always more important than business. You cannot sell to dead people. 2, an abortion can be life or death situation. I know, because I had one because my body would not abort my dead baby on its own. It had been dead for 12 weeks, and I literally smelled like death. Colonoscopies and mammograms are not usually life-threatening. Got any more far-right talking points for me to strike down? So she says, so smoking has nothing to do with public health? You're funny. Not getting a colonoscopy or mammogram can be life-threatening. Abortions are life-threatening to a baby. Were life-saving abortions the only ones performed during the lockdown? This coming from the person who said the Waukesha massacre was karma for the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. You are all over the place on what constitutes a violation of rights. Thanks. I knew you would justify the economy crushing lockdowns that did nothing to slow the spread of COVID, which has been proven wrong time and time again. But I responded back to Sherry. Smoking does have to do with public health. You are right. However, the spread of smoke can be controlled by having smoking and non-smoking buildings and venues. COVID is everywhere, and we have no control over where it goes. That is the main difference. I've gotten both mammograms and colonoscopies, and neither are emergency procedures. If it is an emergency that you have breast cancer or something is emergency level wrong with your colon, they are not going to give you those procedures. They will most likely be taking you into exploratory surgery. It takes hours to do a colonoscopy. The prep itself takes hours. Did you not read my abortion story? I literally smelled like death. Necrosis was setting in. My life was threatened. The baby was dead. Our dumbass former president spreading lies about COVID and people like you not doing your patriotic duty to our country by protecting the public health and protesting public health measures and spreading Russian propaganda on why lockdowns are not as, and that is why lockdowns are not as effective as they could have been. I also wrote, you must have missed my 3 public apologies, including the podcast that I listed above, and about my $10,000 donation to the Waukesha Victims Fund. It doesn't fit your narrative that I'm a horrible person. So she responds back, I'll leave you to it. And I said, leave me to what? And she said, it's an idiom. I'm moving on. And I said, I hope you learned something. And she said, not from you. And so I said, that's a shame. And that was our conversation. So, yeah, that is my issue. People are confusing private property and public property for starters, and what can be said on one thing and not on another. They're all mad because Trump got censored. Trump didn't get censored because we didn't agree with him. He got censored because he started an insurrection. That's why he got censored. It wasn't a disagreement about politics. He tried to overthrow our democracy. And what DeSantis is doing in Florida is, people don't realize this. I mean, he's limiting free speech in a public classroom. And he's doing a couple other things too. This is not just the only law limiting free speech in his state. He does things in a way that he's saying that he's helping parental rights. Well, parental rights aren't a thing. Freedom of speech is a thing, and he's limiting freedom of speech. And they're confusing the issues with on Twitter. They're saying, oh, Elon Musk is bringing free speech back. It's not free speech. It's a private company. I can't go running through the grocery store and every time I find a good deal, go, fuck yeah, good deal. Fuck yeah, freedom of speech. I just can't do that. So I don't see why they think they have freedom of speech on just because it's an internet pub and you can get on the website. It's still a private business. And it's, you have to sign in. I mean, you don't have to sign in to see stuff necessarily, but some stuff you do, you have to sign in to take advantage of it. So, I mean, you were on their property. So I don't even see how you could even make the argument that that is a public forum, a public square. It's not really. It's a private business and people get on it. You're confusing things. And, I've watched the deterioration of private owners, especially private business owners' rights. You can't do a legal thing on your business, even if all your employees want to smoke. Can't have smoking in your business. It's kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, yeah, why can't we have smoking and non-smoking establishments? I'm not a smoker, by the way. I mean, I do smoke cannabis, but I'm not a cigarette smoker anymore. At one point in time I was, which is why I recognize when somebody's rights are being trampled on, despite it being a public health thing. Yes. Should there be public smoking allowed in public places? No. Should a private business owner be allowed to decide if they want smoking in their establishment? Yes. I have a real issue that line was crossed, because they did go into people's homes and they went into people's cars. So if you have children in the car, you cannot smoke. Now, granted, this is common sense stuff, but they've still gotten into where you are. So now there's a precedent. So now there's limitations to right to privacy. There's a precedent for if they want to get more stronger laws against right to privacy. And so this is the scary downward spiral that Mr. Ron DeSantis is sending Florida down. And Floridians are cheering it on. Woohoo! Yes, they can't tell our children about gay people. Your children already know about gay people. They're sitting there calling other kids on the playground gay. They hear the older kids calling the other kids gay. Or maybe they even hear older kids in the school talking about it when they're in the washroom. Lots happens in the washrooms in grade schools and high schools. Whole dramas go down. So anyway, it's better to have your children educated than to get their information from other kids. That's just my 2 cents. And also, I had experience with a mother who did not tell me about the birds and the bees. And, I didn't have a sex education class in my Catholic school until 5th grade. However, I had my period the day after my 11th birthday. I started developing when I was like 9. So I could have used those early sex ed classes when I was 8. That these people are protesting. That's and when I started having my period, I thought I was bleeding to death, and I did not tell my mother because, gosh, that was a dirty place down there. That's a sinful place down there. You don't talk about that area down there. So we're raising another generation of scared kids, scared adults that don't know anything about science and their private parts, and don't know how to probably put their feelings about sexuality into words either. But anyway, I just want to say in closing that this is not the first time that Disney has stood up to this kind of fascist behavior. They had a cartoon and a song called Der Führer's Face back when Hitler was running Germany. So look that up. Google that. It's quite entertaining. So anyway, I just I hope this hasn't been too rambling. I just wanted to bring up some things that people never talk about, like the RNC being hacked and nobody knowing what Russia found on the RNC and how they've been acting since 2016. I mean, their constituents were needing money. They were needing relief during a pandemic, and they didn't want to give it to them. And they were simply okay with Trump raiding states' supplies for, masks and stuff like that to replenish the federal supply when people in states needed it just horribly. It was just crazy stuff that Trump was doing during the pandemic. And I'm glad we're out of it. Or, well, we're not out of the pandemic. We're still, we're almost out of it, hopefully. But anyway, I'd like to thank you for joining me for the second episode of the Mary Kinda Contrary podcast. The next episode will have a much lighter subject matter. I'm going to talk about my experiences Grammy weekend. I went to the Music Cares Person of the Year event honoring Joni Mitchell and a few other events as well, including the Grammys themselves. So look for episode 3 soon. This is Mary Lemanski and the Mary Kinda Contrary podcast signing off. Have a good one.
Love